Network innovation is a core focus for the Stellar Development Foundation, and that's going to continue in 2022 as we challenge ourselves to adapt to new possibilities and see the opportunity they bring to extend Stellar. And the most immediate way we can think of to do that this year is with smart contracts. You heard me right. I said we are looking to bring smart contracts to Stellar in 2022. There's a lot of work to be done to get there, but at SDF, we're committed to researching and shepherding the development of the code and creating community engagement around an implementation. And the goal is to have Stellar remain one of the most accessible networks for developers so they can deliver high quality and safe applications to their users while also allowing it to adapt and respond to the competitive blockchain landscape. Smart contracts would allow the ecosystem to develop a new suite of products and services on Stellar. They'd not only be a boon to current developers, they'd also attract new developers to Stellar. They will also make it easier for end users to take advantage of Stellar's network of fiat on-ramps to cash into the new digital economy, thereby improving equitable access to financial infrastructure. Since the Stellar network was built as the future of payments, it's important that smart contracts on Stellar are secure for users and can scale without exorbitant network fees. If we do this right, it could set smart contracts on Stellar apart from all the rest. We're optimistic that we can get it done this year, but ultimately, as an open source network with an engaged ecosystem of developers, this isn't solely our decision, right? It's something that we will build with ecosystem support. So we look forward to working with you all to build smart contracts on Stellar.
Oh no, oh man, oh man, oh man, oh man. We've got Tomer in the building. I'm excited. The man, the myth, the legend, Tomer Weller. Thank you for joining the show today. And thanks for everybody that's been out there in the community joining as well. Tomer, how are you today?
I'm great. Thanks for having me. I'm super excited. A bit nervous. I haven't done live video before. I was just asking Sam what happens if I curse, and he says that I can do that. So
that's right.
You know?
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. So check this out. That video that I just showed at the beginning was literally 6 months ago. Now, 6 months ago, it was just kind of a concept, a thought. We were thinking that perhaps we'll see a beta by the end of the year, right? December, maybe the beginning of next year, January. Now, let's take a look here. 5 months ago, we had smart contracts on Stellar. Why now? Kicking off Project Jump Canning, which was, like I said, 5 months ago, leading up to just this month, where we've got the huge announcements of smart contracts platform development, Soroban being released to allow developers to kind of test the waters and play around with it. Tomer, I've got to ask you, how was this process, for you and how was it like, working with the development community to make such a vastly strong improvement and valley forward? How was this?
It was great, and I'm so happy that you shared Justin's video because I haven't seen that in a while, and I realized that we actually delivered, right? We're working with the community. So I think that was our intent, and we followed through. Since the beginning, we were very clear about the fact that we want the community involved. At the end of the day, smart contracts is something that we're arriving to based on the feedback from the Stellar ecosystem. So it just makes sense to have the Stellar ecosystem involved as much as possible in this process. And this developer preview is just about that, right? It's about, this is far from being a final product, but it's an opportunity for developers to give feedback early on.
No, that's great. And that's something that we'll talk about a little bit further on, but it was great to really see, even coming down to the name of of this beta release was, a lot of feedback. There were a lot of open community calls. I know the Stellar Dev channels were really pumping. So it was really great to see. What do you think was, I guess, a tipping point? Kind of going back to what I'm saying, this was just 6 months ago that it was even announced, back in February that you guys were taking this direction, as a strong unified front. Was there a particular moment in the process where, you guys said, "Hey, I think we have something that we can go ahead and release to the public"?
So we always intended to release as fast as possible, but we didn't want to set expectations too high. But to be honest, this was all done open source through the entire process. So if you've been in the if you've been looking at our GitHub repos, if you've been following along, you've seen that happening. It's very hard to keep secrets in open source. I think the only secret that we tried to keep a bit towards the announcement last week was about the Soroban name itself. But but even that, people noted, like, we started renaming a few days before, so it's really hard to keep secrets in open source.
Yeah. I mean, so yeah, we had Jump Cannon, right? We had Jump Cannon when I guess the plan was set in motion to start moving forward. Uh, Tell us about this name Soroban. I had to actually look up the pronunciation. Can you share, like, I guess a little bit behind the meaning and the decision for choosing that?
Sure. So you know, I think last month, after a few months of development, we started to realize that what we have here is more than just another feature that we're building on Stellar. It's a completely new product. And that product really deserved its own name. So in the beginning, we called it Jump Cannon. Jump Cannon is like the name of the project that gave birth to Soroban. When we were looking for a name, we went to the developer Discord. Justin posted and asked for naming suggestions. That led to, I think, probably a few weeks worth of discussions, probably the most engaged thread that I've ever seen in our developer Discord. And eventually we took that list of names that came from that thread, circled around internally, and I'm not going to lie to you, coming up with this name was one of the most challenging things I've had to deal with in my career. It's just, it's just, there are so many opinions. They say that naming is one of the most difficult things in computer science. They're not kidding. Like, it's really like finding a name that makes sense, is unique, and everyone is happy with. Almost impossible. We've really liked this thread of mechanical calculators because we feel like these
Mm,
things have the same properties that we're looking for. Like, they're like super robust and simple and focused on the essentials. And
right.
nothing is more like simple and robust and minimal than the Japanese Soroban, which is like the most minimal abacus there is. I have a bunch of these around. They're still used today. You can buy these on Amazon. $20. It's pretty awesome.
Nice,
Yeah.
nice. It's funny. So for those watching, we actually got Stellar Global's Discord, and we also have comments coming in from YouTube. J Rome's already cracking jokes. He says that's a great green screen you have, Tomer. Incredible green screen. I need to get on David M's level of backgrounds. No, it's great, man. Enjoying it. No, I think that's a great story. I mean, as we kind of go back to kind of the speed at which everything has kind of progressed, how did the choice of using the choice of Wasm and Rust have as far as making an impact, and how quickly you guys were able to turn this around?
So definitely WASM or WebAssembly is a huge factor in our ability to move so fast. And we made that decision to go with WASM based on the availability of this ecosystem and of tooling, and of the ability to write Rust that directly compiles to WASM. We've got a lot of Rust advocates in the foundation. We love Rust. Rust is also allowing us to do really cool things, like we can write a smart contract and then decide whether we want to ship it part of the host environment, for example, part of Stellar Core, or if we want to ship it as like a WASM smart contract, because Rust compiles both to WASM and both to like regular CPU instructions. So pretty amazing stuff.
Nice. Um, so one of the questions, I know that in the release that came out, there was a mention in there. It said that the goal was to make something that's broadly useful And so it doesn't depend on or require Stellar at all. What is that? What did you guys mean by that statement?
So, like I said earlier, when we started developing this, we realized that what we're developing is not necessarily a feature in the current Stellar protocol, what we call Stellar Classic. We could have built a simple feature on top of Stellar to bring smart contracts, but it probably wouldn't meet the technical requirements, the high technical requirements that we had. So our approach was we decided to start a new page, figure out what's the right way to build smart contracts from scratch, and then figure out how to combine that into Stellar. So that module Soroban is actually not dependent on Stellar. You can put it at Stellar, but you can put it on a permissioned ledger. You can put it on a CBDC ledger. You can put it on an L2 rollup. So you can take the same execution environment and put it in a lot of different contexts, not necessarily just Stellar. And that's part of why it deserved its own name and its own brand, Soroban.
Okay, great. So it's independent, as you said, kind of independent of the network itself, and can be interoperated into different blockchains and use cases. What you're saying?
Sure, and I would, you can think about it like an engine, right? You can take the same engine and put it especially like in the old days, in like the 80s and 70s, you can take the same engine and put it like many different cars, right? Like the GMC motorhome had like the exact same engine as a lot of muscle cars, right? And that's
Right.
like the beauty of having like this interoperable modules.
Yeah, and I think that's great. I mean, one of the things, as kind of the world's opened up this year, a lot of the conversations have been to interoperability. So I mean, I was hoping that was sort of the idea, and but I'm glad to hear you kind of bring up that point, because I think that if we're going to really use this technology in a massive way, a life changing way, where we can actually be used into different use cases, it's important that we interoperate. So that's great. Um, the this process was a lot more open and transparent than honestly the SDF has been in the past. A lot of times when things come out, it just boom, this is what we're doing. But you guys have kind of went through that, very transparent, getting feedback, communicating your thoughts and vision of where it's going. What has the feedback been from the development community thus far? Have you been hearing some feedback on perhaps what people are looking to build, utilizing it? I'm just kind of curious to see what the traction's been.
So we've gotten some great engagement in the past week. We're seeing people develop. We're seeing people asking questions, um, giving a lot of great feedback, opening issues on GitHub. Um, the feedback specifically really focused on how great the documentation examples are, which is something that we're very proud of, and I think that's something that in the blockchain space often is overlooked, just having like really great documentation to onboard developers. So I think that has been great. And generally speaking, people are so excited to have more surface area to engage with Stellar in, because Stellar has always been so focused on very specific use cases, which meant that it had just a very or relatively small surface area for engagement. And now you can bring just general purpose programs into the picture, so people are static.
No, that's great. I mean, I'm looking at, I see a comment here. Jay Rome again, he said, I think most people in the community thought native smart contract would never happen. And once again, here we are. What now? 6 months, since the announcement, halfway point through the year where we have this coming together. Um, this sort of transparency, I mean, how did that work out? Do you think internally that you feel that this is something that we can continue to see? Another feedback I've been seeing is that people are really happy to see people like yourself, and other folks, other developers, engineers, communicating, talking, tweeting. Is this a new trend that we might see coming out of the Stellar Development Foundation?
Thanks. It's really my pleasure to communicate with the ecosystem. And a noteworthy achievement that we had yesterday is that John Jove, one of the
Yes,
core
shout out to John. He
one of the
tweeted.
core developers. It's 2022, and he just tweeted his first tweet ever, which was
That's amazing.
on reference. And to be honest, John has put in an amazing amount of work into this, and the entire team. We just counted today; it's like 20,000 lines of code in the past 4 months. That's a lot,
Wow.
and the
Wow.
velocity
That's a lot.
is insane. And we're really happy to engage with the ecosystem. Everyone is super excited about this, and we've definitely made this decision as the SDF to be more open, more transparent. And it's not necessarily asking for permission; it's just doing things in the open. Like if you're
Right.
looking at the Soroban channel on the developer Discord, it's just we're just trying to do it in the open instead of like on internal communication tools. And I think it's been working out great. There will always be projects that are going to be more difficult to share with the ecosystem early on. So, for example, things like the MoneyGram integration, that was something that for many reasons couldn't actually share the progress. It's definitely not open source because of the nature of the company. So, different projects have different capacity to be done in the open, and smart contracts are definitely something that we think should be done in the open and kind of like are at the highest level of engagement that we want to see.
Good, good, good. Let's go back here and go back to Soroban and the release. For developers that haven't got a chance to play around with this yet, haven't even maybe gone to the Discord, what can they expect in this preview? What would they be able to try out here?
So the preview is really focused on what we call local testing, which is the ability to write a smart contract on your dev environment, on your laptop, computer, whatever, and run it without actually having to have like really sophisticated tooling. You don't even need a running Stellar network. And this is part of why I said that Soroban is completely standalone, because we have a CLI tool, a command line interface that you can run applications with, and you can compile contracts to your computer without having to go through a running network. So it makes things very easy. It means that you can use the regular tool chain. If you're familiar with Rust, it's the same Rust compiler, it's the same Rust developer tools, the same Rust test libraries. So it's a lot of the same. There are some differences, and it's
Okay.
definitely like a more minimal subset of Rust that you can use, or a specific Rust dialect, but still should be very familiar to developers.
Nice, nice, nice. Look, I know I grabbed you on like really last minute. Shout out to Spentex for making the connection. I reached out. I said, look, I want to do grab 20 minutes with the man himself. Shout out to Emir. Emir has a good point, man. We're disappointed, no glasses. Yeah, look, there. Since we will have the Stellar Global channel open, we have a special Stellar Global podcast where you can go ahead and add any questions. If you're catching the replay, you want to add it. Tomer, when he has the chance, could swing in and answer questions. We'll keep that. We'll keep that empty or dedicated to this particular podcast for the rest of the weekend. But beyond that, where else can folks go? You mentioned the Discord, so tell us about where people can get feedback from.
Developer Discord, still a developer Discord on the Soroban and the Soroban dev channels. The docs, which are at soroban.stellar.org. That's a really great starting point. And yeah, Discord's a place.
That's awesome. And once again, shout out to the amount of work and time that you guys were able to eclipse here, getting this in 6 months. Congrats to the docs as well. I'm not even a big dev person. I was able to follow it through and understand and understand what the heck's going on. So shout out to the documentation. I remember Justin made a big point of that when a couple years ago. And so, great to see how that has continued to be a mainstay. So shout out to Justin as well. To everybody else, look, hope you guys got a little preview, a little bit of more understanding. If you have any questions, as you said, go to the Stellar Discord. They got developer Discord, dedicated channel for Soroban. You can ask questions. Stellar Global Discord as well. You get some things there. Other than that, man, I look forward to seeing you on the other side. You hang on real tight. Everybody, it has